Support for Radio Friends comes from Columbia Healthy Smiles, the dental office of husband and wife team Dr. Batson and Dr. Abe, offering comprehensive and customized care to patients of all ages. Learn more by calling 573-721-9039 or online at www.columbiahealthysmiles.com. Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Wednesday, January 5th. We've got a pretty interesting topic, or at least it's interesting to me. That's our memory. How do we improve our memory? And as we grow older, do we really lose our memory? Is it something that comes with old age? Does it have to? And can we improve? I want to introduce you to Danielle Winton, who is with us from Memory Strategy. Good to have you here, Danielle.
Thank you for having me.
You were on a couple of months ago, and I found you so interesting, I wanted to have you come back again. You've got some tips today on how all of us can improve our memory, right? The first question I have, though, as we grow older, does our memory start to fail us? And does it have to, or is there something we can do to reverse that?
Right. I would like to talk about the difference between sort of general aging versus getting a medical diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia. They're kind of two different things.
Right.
And so there's absolutely things we can do to slow the process of losing our memory over time. And so the brain is like a muscle. We have to exercise it. We can't just expect our body and our brain to always perform the same as it always has. So we have to do exercises to help that.
Okay. So you have some suggestions?
Yeah, and actually I'd like to talk about my myths first because I want to let people know about limiting beliefs. So I have this first myth, which is there's no such thing as a bad memory. People come up to me, I tell people, I have a business called Memory Strategies, and they say, oh, my memory's so bad, it's so terrible. The thing is that there's no such thing as a bad memory. That's very similar to saying, oh, I've got bad biceps, or I have bad thighs. It's not that. It's not that you have bad muscles. Exactly. You haven't practiced. You haven't learned how to exercise them.
Okay, so that's myth number one. There is no such thing as a bad memory.
Exactly.
Myth number two is what?
So myth number two, I like talking about this because a lot of people don't know about it. Learning styles. You've heard about people that are auditory learners, kinesthetic learners, visual learners, right? That actually became very popular in the 70s and again in the 90s. However, in 2009, 2010, both the American Psychological Foundation and the Association for Psychological Science found that this actually isn't true. It's a myth. A lot of people feel like I have to learn information visually for me to remember it, but that's not the case at all. In fact, what they found is that it depends on the subject matter at hand that determines the learning style you should use. So let me give you an example.
Okay.
Let's say you want to learn how to dive into water. You can't listen to an audiobook about diving and then be expected to be good at diving.
You have to watch somebody, or you
have to go do it, right?
But you have to watch somebody first too, don't you?
Well, here's the thing. When we are learning how to dive, if you only watch someone and you only listen to a book about it, are you going to be able to dive? You probably have to practice a few times, right? So it's a very kinesthetic thing. So just like a mechanic on a car, you can't just listen to it and look at it. You have to go and actually practice and do it for you to become good at it.
Okay.
Right? Would you hire a mechanic if they've never touched a vehicle?
No.
No. Right? So it depends on the subject matter at hand.
Okay.
So here's the good news. It means that you are capable of learning in any of the styles. That means you are capable of learning auditorily, kinesthetically, visually, tactilely. So it's good news.
And is it true that anybody can learn anything? Because you hear people say, oh, this is totally beyond me. I just can't understand that.
Exactly. So there's a difference between fixed mindset and growth mindset. Growth mindset says, I am capable of learning anything. I just haven't learned it yet.
Okay, so that's the mindset that you want.
Yes, you definitely want
I am capable of learning anything I want to. I just haven't learned it yet.
I've helped 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds memorize entire Bible verses when they thought they couldn't. I mean, your mind is elastic. It can change. So even till the day that you die, your brain is moving and shifting and changing. So you are capable of making new connections in your brain.
Okay. You got some tips for us?
I do, yes.
Tip number 1.
So tip number 1, okay, really, really easy. If you want to remember something, close your eyes. And the reason I say that is because if you're trying to recall something, right now you've got a lot of input happening. A lot of things are stimulating your brain. So when you close your eyes, you're cutting off that stimulation and allowing your brain to focus on what you need to remember. And there was a study done in legal and criminal psychology that said students who closed their eyes remembered 23% more than those who kept their eyes open.
So if you're trying to remember something that you think you forgot, close your eyes and try to remember it with your eyes closed, and chances are it's going to come back to you.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Tip number 1, close your eyes when you're trying to remember something. Number 2?
Yep. So number 2, mindful meditation. Again, another really interesting study. They took 2 groups of people, and the first group studied regularly, and the second group included mindfulness meditation during their studying, or before or after their studying. And what they found is after just 2 weeks of practicing mindfulness meditation, they scored 60 points higher on the GRE, which is incredible.
Yeah.
That's a huge jump.
So explain, what is mindful meditation?
So mindfulness is all about being present. So it's the practice of cutting off things that are distracting you and being in the present moment. So think about, if you're studying for an exam or you're studying for a test, you've got a lot of stress and a lot of worry and a lot of anxiety.
Cut that off.
Right? So mindfulness meditation has to do with practicing and training your brain to be in the present moment. So the more you practice that, the more you can apply that to other areas of your life, like studying for the GRE.
Okay. And number 3, we're almost out of time here.
Using association. So think about your brain as a network, like think about a map and all the roads. When we have a new piece of information, we have to connect it to something we already know. So the last time I was on your show, I talked about the name Brian. How am I going to remember that name? And I said dying yams. Right? So I used a rhyming tip or technique to remember that name. So now, when I have that new name, I already have connections in my brain, dying and yam. And I connect Brian to those things that are already in my brain, and it makes like a road, like a highway to that new information.
Okay. You are good. You are really good. We could do an hour program with you. Danielle, thank you so much for coming by, and I do hope you will find it in your schedule to come back and visit with us again. You've got good information.
Thank you.
If people want to contact you, the best thing to do is what?
Go to my website, memorystrategy.com.
www.memorystrategy.com. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you so much.
Something you'd like to hear? I'd love to hear from you, Pepper P, Missouri.edu. Bye-bye.